Hello and welcome to the heliosblog. My name is Helios. Today we're going to talk about alpha widows. Now here's a topic. Alpha widows are everywhere. You just didn't know they were there. They hide in plain sight, normal seeming women, until you look a little bit behind the veil. Below the surface, these women hide a huge secret, if you know what I mean.
Enjoying my content? Check out my blog at heliosblog.com. On YouTube, you can support me by liking and subscribing. I'm also on Spotify if you'd prefer a podcast. If you're interested in my books, The Strategist Guide to Seduction and Quotes to Live By, they're available on Amazon. In addition, you can follow me on Patreon at theheliosblog for exclusive content. On with the show.
What is an alpha widow? An alpha widow is a girl that fell into an alpha's frame so hard that even when he left, she remained there. These women are the MMA fighters, the serious rock climbers, and the adrenaline junkies. These women are the women with many tattoos, or the hardcore stoners. These are the women who are nerdy intellectuals, or the hardcore hipsters. These are the women with so-called baggage that betas work so hard to fix, to no avail. Alpha widows still pine for the alpha that got away, even when he's dead or gone forever. How are alpha widows made? Alpha widows are made as a result of the idea that women reshape their personalities to fit the person they're with. Alphas are a powerful personality influencer. I'm sure you've seen women change for the men they're with. Alpha widows simply change more. Alpha widows are created when an alpha has extreme influence over a woman, usually because he's extremely physically attractive relative to her, coupled with having a very alpha demeanor and good frame. The woman tries and tries to change him, and it never works, increasing his attractiveness in her eyes even more. At the peak of her attraction for him, for whatever reason, he leaves. This withdrawal of attention creates a severe negative effect in the mind of the woman he's with, and she chases him desperately, trying to get him back. If he refuses to return, an alpha widow is born. Why being a beta to an alpha widow is terrible? A beta that gets into a relationship with such a woman has no chance from the beginning. Nothing the beta ever does will compare emotionally to the soul rip that an alpha leaving at peak attraction does to a woman. He is forever second or third best. As a result, betas with alpha widows are very obviously and often publicly mistreated by them. Ever seen a tortured beta with a girl who seemingly never gave him any slack? That's an alpha widow taking out her frustration on her hapless beta. Most betas have no idea of the situation they're in, as they believe at face value everything their partner tells them. Women often deny that they were ever with such a man to their beta, as the negative emotions are too strong, and she fears that he'll catch on to the fact that she still loves the alpha. Signs you're with an alpha widow. I'm sure you're curious about the signs now. Here's a list. 1. If she mentions how some guy in her past was a total asshole who ruined her. 2. If she mentions one guy's name over and over, who she used to date. 3. If she's extremely into something niche when you meet her. I'm not talking about a casual hobby here. 4. If she constantly redirects the topic of conversation to one guy in particular. 5. If she has a guy's name tattooed on her. Trashy, I know. 6. If she dates you, but nothing you ever do seems to make her happy. 7. If she's a sub. Obviously, if you're with an alpha widow, she should never be promoted past friends with benefits. The ship has sailed, unfortunately. The funny thing is that by denying her commitment, you're very likely to make her feel how she felt with a guy that alpha widowed her, and you'll probably have a good time. She'll only start to resent you when the relationship is more serious. How you can create an alpha widow. Here is how you can create your very own alpha widow. Proceed with caution. Meet these criteria. 1. Be 2 points of attractiveness higher than her. 2. For the entire length of the relationship, pass every single shit test. 3. Always be aloof. 4. Text only for logistics. 5. Fuck her like it's your last day on earth every time you have sex. 6. Have a hobby or passion that you mention relatively frequently. 7. Leave when you get bored and don't return. If you have all of the above criteria met, I guarantee that you'll create an alpha widow. Signs she's becoming your alpha widow. If she ever says any of the following things, beware, there's a good chance she's becoming your alpha widow. 1. She says that you've ruined sex for her with anyone else. 2. She says she's yours and only yours. 3. She says that she loves you unprompted. Number 4, she says she'd do anything for you. Number 5, she says that she's taken up something that you love as a hobby to try and impress you. Number 6, she says that she wishes she could be closer to you but knows that that's not the kind of man you are. Obviously, if she becomes your alpha widow, that means that you've ruined her for future relationships with betas and most other alphas. It also means that she's extremely likely to boomerang back to you pretty much at any point you like. Alpha widows will be shockingly pleasant with you and assholes to pretty much everyone else. Are alpha widows good for society? I would say that alpha widows unfortunately bring negative energy with them everywhere they go, especially if they're past the age of 35, with less chance to get another alpha due to their younger competition. As a result, I believe they're not necessarily good for society. As the myth of Icarus and Daedalus, alpha widows flew too close to the sun and got burnt. This is the negative consequence of the matriarchy. By freeing women completely, it has made many women miserable. If any women are out there reading this, or listening to this, I would advise against pairing up with any man who is too attractive relative to you. He will not only make you believe that your sexual market value is higher than it is, he'll also likely make you miserable in the long term, as he'll never be shackled to any individual woman. You can go for one man who is 1 point higher than you in attractiveness and probably be okay. 2 or more and you're asking for trouble. Don't say I didn't warn you. Best type of game to use with an alpha widow. The best type of game to use with an alpha widow is alpha game. You have absolutely no chance with beta game. The sad part is that oftentimes alpha widows will act as though they want beta game and punish their beta partners harshly for it. You're in for a really bad time if you have a serious relationship with an alpha widow. Be smart and keep her in the category that she should be in, friends with benefits. Can alpha widows ever recover? It is possible, but it's extremely unlikely for an alpha widow to recover. She had to have been alpha widowed at a young enough age to be able to find an even better alpha than the previous one. The alpha has to then stay with her until she betaizes him. If she can manage this, she can get over being an alpha widow. It is unlikely because a greater alpha than the first one is even more likely to leave than the first one. A more likely occurrence is that the woman gets alpha widowed even harder. This is actually what the sex carousel of modern Western matriarchy does to women. It gives them the opportunity to be with as many men as they want, and so they select for the best ones, only to get continually alpha widowed to the point that they're incapable of happiness in the kind of relationship that they need to be in for their long-term stability. Sadly, going back to the old system doesn't work either, of women being property. I believe that a stable system is in fact a middle ground. In this system, women get into monogamous, temporary, long-term relationships with non-monogamous men and have children with them. When they get bored, which is inevitable due to human non-monogamy, they amicably split and continue the process with other partners. It becomes a pseudo-tribal system through this process, and no one is forced to go against their biology by being monogamous forever. Conclusion. Alpha widows are common. The modern cultural climate has allowed more of them to appear. It is very likely for you through your journey to create an alpha widow or two. Just remember that alpha widows cause misery wherever they go. Try not to create them on purpose.